Years ago, I found myself at the dentist office in Paris. After he finished his work, he asked me about my profession. When I mentioned that I was a photographer, his eyes lit up. He was a weird object collector, and he told me about a rare and remarkable tool called a camera Lucida. Little did I know that this simple conversation would ignite a deep fascination within me. The camera Lucida is a weird optical device that creates a bridge between your eyes and the paper, allowing you to perfectly draw even if you don't know how to draw. It's like having an artist's superpower.
Artists would keep it secret. They would, actually.
The camera Lucida has a rich past, and to know more about it, I met with the world's top expert on the subject and creator of a modern version of the tool.
Hi, I'm Pablo Garcia, professor from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago and creator of the Lucida. I have one of the world's largest collections of camera lucidas and have written about and created camera lucidas. A camera lucida is a prism mounted onto an adjustable stand. When you look down into that prism, what you see is the image of the world in front of you superimposed onto your page. What's useful about that is that you can also see your hand, so you can trace directly from real life. So how many camera lucidas do I have in my collection? I have about 40 to 50 different camera lucidas. Now, some of them are precious, beautiful brass instruments, handmade and made by these famous opticians, but some are simple mirror and glass toys or drawing aids that people made in the 1920s and 30s. This is a version of the original camera lucida made by William Hyde Wollaston in 1807. So what you have is a prism within the housing, and in addition you also have two diopters that you can flip up in front of the prism or below the prism that allows you to do some optical correction for different distances. So this is a rare example of from the 1810s, a camera lucida by the Italian mathematician Amici. This does have a little bit more difficulty with certain lighting conditions, which is why the Amici comes with a shader that you could flip up either in front of the prism or below the prism. So in this design, there is a partially silvered mirror. So this is a type of design that is a see-through camera lucida. You are looking through the optics, not at the edge of the optics as you would in a prism. Now this design also comes with a shader that you would be able to flip down in front to help balance lighting situations. This is a camera lucida design that uses a slightly different prism, which is a triangle prism. It has a mount area for these different lenses. And so you can take any of these lenses and place it inside to create very specific focal lengths for enlargements and reductions. Toys like the Magic Art See and Draw Copier, marketed under different names, from the 1950s all the way up to the 1980s. And if you were a child at that time, you would find advertisements in the back of pulp magazines or comic books for this magical toy. It was like $1.50. So as you look inside, part of your image would be reflected in the glass, into the mirror and back out again, and then part of your view would go down to the page. Effectively, the camera lucida, once an absolutely important tool for artists in the days before photography was invented, by the 1950s was basically a child's toy for fun, learning how to draw. I actually don't know why they've become more and more expensive, but there weren't that many made. These were not industrial tools. They were made by opticians and by small optical houses, mostly in Paris and in London in the 19th century. But also, I think that there is something about how beautiful they are. And if you look up any old tools that are brass and machined with fine parts, these are expensive antiques. Which is why when I started collecting them, I was interested in using them, not collecting them just as antiques. And that's what led me to creating the Lucida, a cheap version that allows you to experience the camera lucida without having to spend $300, $400, or $500 or euros on some of these vintage items. In the Lucida Plus, we've added some of these features that were part of the older designs, adjustable shaders, as well as the little paddles that make for precision viewing. So it's a much slimmer, sleeker, and easier to use design, but based on the historical research of the original vintage camera lucidas. You can set it up anywhere, and you can focus from a meter to infinity. You can set up it outside and draw a distant mountain, but you can also set up a flower right in front of you and make a drawing from that. Some of the more difficult things to draw with a camera lucida would probably be a portrait. Not just because portraits are hard to draw, but because the person is slightly moving, which is why in the early days, people who would do portraits with camera lucidas would actually set up behind a chair a small brace to have a person sit perfectly still so that they could trace them quickly. Most artists would actually just do some very, very quick lines just to get the important parts of the face correct, and then from there fill it in, sometimes looking up from the camera lucida, looking at the person directly to finish it up. Between the 1810s and the 1850s, there were archaeologists going into Central America and Africa who would use a camera lucida to document the ruins and cultural artifacts of these far-off lands long before you could take a photograph and bring them back. You had at least one example of a tourist using it. Captain Basil Hall, who was a retired Navy officer from the British Navy, took a camera lucida with him to North America in the 1820s and documented landscapes and people wearing their American outfits, and would do these drawings to document this world that he was experiencing. And because he was not a particularly brilliant artist, these are very simple amateur drawings that help document what a young United States looked like to the British public. So fun fact, the camera lucida had a very important role in the invention of photography. William Henry Fox Talbot, who developed the process for making salt prints, which was the first time that it was commercially viable to produce photographic processes, was a fan of using the camera lucida when he was on holiday in Italy. He was not very good at drawing. So when he would look inside the camera lucida, he saw this beautiful image of the world inside him, but then he would look at his drawing and say, this is not a very good drawing. And that led him, fortunately for photography, to find a way to fix the image onto film. I have actually seen the original drawings that Talbot has done, which are in collections around the UK. I can assure you that he wasn't very good at drawing because on the backside of the drawings, you can see the indentations of his lines. He actually was drawing very, very hard, and you could see that he was struggling very much to put pencil line to paper. If he was a little more practiced at drawing or a little more relaxed in his drawing technique, maybe photography wouldn't have been invented for many more years. But fortunately for us, he wasn't very good at drawing and invented photography. So I know what you're probably going to ask, is this cheating? Is it cheating to use a camera lucida or camera obscura or any of these optical devices? My quick answer is only if you assume that art is a competition. The reality is that these tools have existed for a very long time, and people from different areas of the arts and sciences have used these tools because they need to draw accurately for a variety of reasons. You want to make a pretty picture, or you need to communicate information very precisely, or you need to share a discovery or some form of information that cannot be shown any other way. You are forgetting about the millions and millions of people around the world who want to learn to draw and maybe didn't learn when they were children, or used to draw a little bit and gave up and want to go back to drawing again. And a tool like a camera lucida, all it does is it makes some aspects of drawing a little bit easier. And honestly, people who learn to draw with a camera lucida will find that they use it less and less, because you're going to train your eye and your brain to see the world a little bit better for the art that you want to make. A camera lucida is just a tool, a drawing aid, an instrument to help you learn to draw. If you want to know more about the collection that I have, the research that I've done, where to get a Neolucida, and all the story behind the creation of the Neolucida, you can just go to neolucida.com. There you can buy the original Neolucida, the Neolucida XL, and the brand new Neolucida Plus, for which we've just launched a Kickstarter, and that will be available in October of 2023. So neolucida.com for all of your camera lucida questions.
I will post new videos of me drawing with the vintage and modern camera lucidas and see what kind of results I can get, even if I'm not good at drawing. So don't forget to subscribe to check the progress I am making. Are you ready to take this channel to the next level? Then consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. You'll have the power to shape the direction of this channel. Join us on Patreon and let's produce incredible content together.